Happy International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. My name is Crystal Norman, and I am the Deputy Public Affairs Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Lisbon. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to the U.S. Embassy's Storyteller Summit featuring activist, author, and international sports star, Joanna Lohman. I want to give a special thanks to our great partners and friends from IPDJ for their promotional efforts. In addition, I want to continue. This program is continuing the celebration of incredible American women from Women's History Month in March. And we see this school outreach session as part of a broader effort to advance our diversity inclusion goals, underscore our shared interests and values. We know Portugal loves soccer, and build excitement and solidarity about the upcoming Olympics and Paralympics in Japan this summer. Our sports diplomacy exchanges tap into the positive global power of sports as a universal language to bridge differences between people of different backgrounds and different cultures as we promote the value of dedication, of teamwork, and community. At the beginning of the year, we created the Storyteller Summit to use our school network to educate, inspire, and empower youth by highlighting the stories of diverse American voices. During the first session in January, we invited an American University student who served as a virtual campaign staffer for local and national elections as we marked our presidential inauguration and the value of public service. For Black History Month, we invited a 12-year-old Angolan American author to help us celebrate authors of African descent on both sides of the Atlantic, but also discuss her book and inspire young writers. And for this session on this special occasion, we knew Joanna would be the perfect speaker for this series. Her resilience, dedication, and work ethic makes her the total package: athlete, activist, and now amazing author. So in celebration of the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace 2021, it is my pleasure to introduce to the U.S. Embassy Storyteller Summit our featured speaker, Joanna Lohman. But first, let's see her in action. Check this video.
Oh, what a beautiful life. These days with
God, what a ball. Lohman,
so much
goal, spirit.
Little
third person pass there between Dunn and Lohman. And they're involved, and it's a 2-1 game.
Great combination play by the Spirit to get inside the box. That's where their goal's going to have to come from. They did.
'Cause for all we know, this could be the last night of our lives. Gonna chase down our every desire. We blaze the night with all we've been waiting for all this time. Reaches such great heights, gives us just one perfect night to say, oh, what a beautiful life.
Towards Lohman, her header is in, off the bar. Joanna Lohman scored 2 goals.
But heart can't just wait here. See what it brings. We got too many hopes. We got too
Strength
many
of Dunn. What a
dreams.
ball by Dunn! Look at that! And the finish by Lohman. Dunn with yet another assist, and Washington is on the board. That was nifty.
That was really hard work from Crystal Dunn trying to go against Klingenberg.
Gonna chase down our every desire. We blaze the night.
Lohman comes out off the post and across the line. And it's the goal from Washington.
Reaches such great heights. Gives us just one perfect night to say, oh, what a beautiful life.
Great turn and an excellent
Great, great. Oh man, every time I watch that highlight reel, I'm always so impressed. Let's go ahead and have Joanna join us here. Joanna, thank you so much. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I love watching me score goals. I'm no Cristiano Ronaldo, but hey, you just saw every 6 goals of my entire career. So I love watching that.
Yeah, well, let me give a formal introduction to the group for you. Joanna Lohman is a former professional soccer player and member of the U.S. women's national team, a career spanning 16 years. Off the field, she is the author of the newly released Raising Tomorrow's Champions, an extraordinary parenting and life lessons book as told through the eyes of the greatest women soccer players of all time. She is also a professional speaker, human rights activist, a sport diplomat, traveling the world, running programs in less developed nations, and she strives to live an unabashedly authentic life based around deep-rooted acceptance and helps others discover a comfort in their skin. You are truly inspiration. I am so happy to be able to call you a friend. Thank you and welcome for joining us for the first time in Portugal at the U.S. Embassy Storyteller Summit, Joanna Lohman.
Thank you, Crystal, so much for that incredible introduction. And it's so nice to see so many faces on this call. It's a privilege to be able to be in Portugal, knowing that we can't really travel with the pandemic, in a country that loves football, as we say, soccer in America so much. I think that sharing my journey and sharing my story today is really going to resonate with a lot of you. I want to really take you on a ride of how I became a professional soccer player, especially a female professional soccer player, and give you a little bit of a history of the U.S. women's national team and a history of female sports in the United States, because it has been a very, I would say, a difficult struggle for female athletes. And it all started back in 1972. And I want to show you some graphics now to help you understand what really was impactful for us throughout our history. So we can go ahead and start the slideshow. And it was a monumental moment in 1972. We had an amendment called Title IX that really changed the history of women's sports and changed the trajectory of where female sports could go. It was an amendment that pretty much ensured equal rights for women and men in sports. This is in public schools and government-funded institutions. And number 2 here on this slide, you see that schools are prohibited from restricting admission or participation in activities based on sex. In terms of sports, male and female students must have equal opportunity for participation. And this was really life-changing for female athletes. My mother was not able to play sports because she was born before 1972. And there were so many brave women who fought to get Title IX onto the ballot, and also to get it to make sure that all of us were insured to play sports equally as men. After 1972, you started to see more participation from women in sport. And when it came to soccer, it was an incredible impact on the women's game. And when we talk about an opportunity to play is so powerful for every human being, especially for young women who have been, I would say, very marginalized and also boxed into a certain standard in society. If you go to the next slide, you get to see what I like to call the opportunity effect. And the opportunity effect is the idea of giving someone a chance to participate. You have a prevention of chronic diseases. You have a lower rates of substance abuse. It reduces risky behaviors. It decreases rate of teen pregnancy, better mental health, higher self-image and confidence levels. And this is so important, not just on the field, but that translates over to all of life. And then improved teamwork and communication skills. To be honest, life is a team sport, and working in groups is such an important part of your profession, whether you're a student, whether you're outside of your school career now, working in an organization, you guys are all a part of a team. So understanding that from a young age can really help you as you get older. And when we talk about women's soccer in the United States, a lot of people think of 1999. That's when the Women's World Cup happened in the United States of America. And the US women's national team won the World Cup in a sold out stadium in California. And not many people thought that tickets would be sold to this World Cup. People really didn't put much emphasis on women's sports. And then all of a sudden in 99, they won the World Cup. Brandi Chastain very famously rips off her shirt after hitting the winning PK, flexes her muscles for the whole world to see. And in that instant, the history of women's sports changed. They were on the cover of Time magazine. They were the most popular women's team in the entire world. And in 1999, as a youth player in the Washington, D.C. area, I got to meet the Women's World Cup team at the White House, where the president lives. And that was the moment where I knew I wanted to become a professional soccer player. And I got to see with my own eyes role models and people I could aspire to be like. And before that, yes, I wanted to be a professional athlete. I loved playing sports. I played all different sports, but I didn't fully understand what it meant. And I think seeing is believing, and representation matters. So when I saw Mia Hamm, Brandi Chastain, Briana Scurry walk out of that bus, and I got to just really take in their aura, that was the moment that changed my life. And I want to show a video now that really gives you an idea of how that impacted me and how I use my platform as a professional athlete. (1999). That was a year the women's national team won the World Cup against China. Briana Scurry makes the winning save. Brandi Chastain hit the winning PK, rips off her shirt, sports bra, and it was almost overnight fame for the women's national team.
Yep.
I was 17 years old. The entire women's national team came to visit the president, and they invited a lot of youth soccer players to come too. So I got to attend and meet all the national team players at the White House. And that was a moment where I thought to myself, this is what I want to do with my life. My name's Joanna Lohman, and I'm a midfielder for the Washington Spirit.
Midfielder Joanna Lohman!
The collective attitude in our league is fantastic. You know, we're all doing it for the love of the sport. We're clearly not doing it for the financial rewards, not really for the fame, the fortune. So it's a really close-knit group of people, and it's family, so to say. I think it's a personal choice, but I know that it's important to me to be out because although it's so safe to be gay in women's soccer in the United States, it's not safe across the board in this country. So I want to stand up and be counted for the community because I still think it's so important. It's unparalleled, really, as a pro athlete. You have people that come to your games, that watch you, that really adore you, that look up to you, especially as an LGBT athlete and a sport that has so many LGBT fans. They see me out in the field working. I'm proud of who I am on the field, off the field, and that gives them a little bit more confidence to be who they are. For me, I think that's the biggest impact I could ever make. I'm very proud of the way I look, and I do realize that it's quite extreme at moments. I do get mistaken for a boy sometimes.
But the most important thing for me is expanding expectations and thoughts on what a woman should look like. I do it for someone who comes behind me that may look similar to me. They won't get the same questions or the same stares. Some people work in offices where they can't dress a certain way or look a certain way, and you kind of have to mute it. But for me, it's like I can be unabashedly myself. What you see is what you get, and my hair matches my lifestyle, it matches my personality. I know I'm very lucky to be able to do that, and I hope that inspires others to do the same.
It's a mohawk, and I like it because my favorite player on the Washington Spirit is Joanna Lohman, and she has a mohawk, so. I don't necessarily believe in failure. I think there's challenges and there's setbacks, and failures are something that you learn from. When I did not make the World Cup team, I came home and I saw my dad. The first thing I did, I just broke down and I started crying. Who am I now? You know, I'm not going to be a World Cup player. I'm not a national team player, so how do I define myself now? You can realize that's just a stepping stone to who I want to be or what I want to become. You know, most people would view that as a failure. I think it just pushed me to be a better player. Success is being your best every single day.
Hey, no pushing, no pushing.
Last season during the Women's World Cup, the United States women's national team was playing Nigeria, and the White House invited the Washington Spirit to watch the game.
Hey, who's this one?
I got to stand up in front of a group of youth soccer players and say, I was sitting right where you guys were sitting in front of Mia Hamm, Brittany Chastain, Brian Ascuri, and they were telling me to work hard at what you believe in, and I did it. You know, I am a living, breathing example of what can happen if you work hard. You can actually achieve your dreams.
You know, I love that part of the video where I talk about making the path more comfortable for the player that comes behind me. And I think that's what we're really talking about today is Title IX blazed the trail for the 99 Women's World Cup team, and they blazed the trail even wider for me to become a professional soccer player. And now it's my job and my responsibility with the platform that I have to continue to blaze that trail even wider. I'm going to go back to after the 99 Women's World Cup, I went straight into college and I went to Penn State University. You get to see me here with long hair. This is before I got the Johawk. So consider yourselves lucky to see this picture here. And I was a 4-time academic All-American, meaning that I did really well in school. I did really well on the field too. I was captain of the team, and I was fully prepared to go into the first ever professional soccer league for women in the United States. This league was launched because of the 99 Women's World Cup team, because of their success and all of their popularity. We were able to launch the first ever league. But sadly, my senior year of college, when I was ready to come out, that league folded. And this is a common theme that you see a lot in women's sports is that we don't get the support that the men do. We don't make the money that Cristiano Ronaldo does. We aren't millionaires. We aren't of that stature. And so you don't see the television support. You don't see the support in the fans. And so it's been a struggle throughout our history. And so the first league folded in 2004. And at that point, I was ready to go into the draft. I was ready to be one of the top players in the women's professional league. And then I all of a sudden had to switch over to plan B. And so that meant traveling the world for 10 years, basically living out of a bag. I played in Spain for Espanyol. I played in Sweden. I played in Cyprus. I played in Japan. I basically did everything that I could to continue my dream of being a professional athlete, even though that meant really living almost without a salary, living in some crazy conditions, learning new languages. It's just what you do for something you're passionate about. At one point, a second league came back, that league folded, and finally a third league, the same league that we have now, was resurrected in the United States. And this league is sustainable. You can go to the next slide. And luckily enough, I got to come back and play for my hometown team. This is the Washington Spirit. who you saw me scoring the goals for. If you see in the center of this picture is Crystal Dunn. She's one of the best players on our current U.S. women's national team, one of the top defenders in the world. And so we had an incredible, incredible group of players. In 2016, we made it to the championship game. That was one of the best seasons of my career. And unfortunately, we lost in the championship game, but I was playing really well. I had refound my love of the game. You know, playing at home in front of my home fans, I could be 100% myself. I talk in the video about being LGBTQ. I came out at the age of 21. And when I went back to Washington, D.C. to play, I cut my hair into the Joe Hawk. I felt like the inner Joe was the outer Joe. And I just felt like I excelled on the field. I excelled off the field. You saw those fans that all wanted my autograph, the little boy who wanted a mohawk. I really started to connect with the fans. And then unfortunately, you can scroll to the next slide. In 2017, which was going to be what I thought the best year of my career, in the 11th minute of the first game, I went down and I had torn my ACL. I'm sure as many of you know, that's a really significant knee injury and you're out the entire season. And so I tore it the first game of the season in the 11th minute. I hadn't missed a game in 7 years and I was about to miss the entire season. Plus I was 34 years old. So I was no young child at that point. I was no young kid. So I really had to come to the terms that I may not play again. I may not play professionally again. And also in that video, I talk about identity and how important, you know, as an athlete, the sport is to your identity. So when I tore my ACL, it was absolutely shattering. I was heartbroken. And it took me a couple of weeks, a month to really get over and really mourn the death of who I thought I was going to be that season. I thought I was going to be a leading goal scorer. I thought I was going to have a ton of assists to Crystal Dunn. And the reality was I was, you know, sitting on my couch with a knee brace. But really, when I look back on my career, I feel like this was one of the best moments. And I know that sounds crazy, but that type of adversity, that type of challenge really forces you to figure out who you are and to really expand your identity. And I think the pandemic has also done that because it's limited us in so many ways. It has limited what we were able to do, that I hope that you're able to take these challenging moments and really expand upon who you are. So in the 2017 season with my bum knee, I really started to grow in my advocacy work for the LGBTQ community. I started to grow in my sports diplomacy work, really starting to travel the world and work with social justice, using sport as a vehicle for that. And I felt like it was a true platform again for me to expand who I was. I came back the 2018 season as the 35-year-old. I actually scored the last goal you saw in my highlight video was my first game back from my ACL tear. So it was almost something of like a Hollywood dream. And then in 2019, I decided to retire. You can go to the next slide. And what was so special about my retirement was that the Washington Spirit, and they allowed me to become the first player in their history to have their jersey retired, meaning that no one will ever wear the number 15 again. And what was so special about that was that, as you guys know, I was never really an MVP. I was never the leading goal scorer. I never won any trophies. I lost every championship game I've been in. I've been cut several times from multiple teams. But the Washington Spirit honored me with that award because they realized how much of an impact I made as a human being, as an advocate, how strong I was coming back from injury and really reinventing myself through all of the failed leagues and following my dreams, that they really made it a special night for me and retired my number. And it's forever up in the locker room, my number 15. And after retiring, I felt like I was able to do a lot more off the field. So you can scroll to the next slide. I've become a coach and a mentor to so many young kids. I travel the world again, using sport as a vehicle for social justice. The top right picture, I was in Nigeria. It was my last trip I took pre-pandemic. And we used soccer as a vehicle to stop human trafficking. So the sport has been such a powerful tool for me throughout my entire life to find my identity, to really make an impact on the world, and also to build a platform where I could feel like I could blaze that trail wider, because we truly stand on the shoulders of the generations that come before us. And I have stood on the shoulders of the 99ers. I stood on the shoulders of the women who really helped to establish Title IX. And I want to offer my shoulders to the next generation. And now I want to let you guys know what you can do. You can go to the next slide. And it's pretty simple, right? Like we all have a platform for impact. And what can you do? You can play sports. As we saw with the opportunity effect, playing sports is in itself life-changing. It can be a change agent. And I encourage you to play with boys and girls, play co-ed. The gender doesn't matter. The sex doesn't matter. It's about playing and coming together on the field and really trying to strive for a certain goal. I want you to join teams, right? It's fun to play by ourselves, but it's so important to understand yourself as a part of a group, as a part of a team. How do I fit in? How do I play a role? How do I really just control what I can? Because there's so much in life that we can't control, and we have to let go of that. I encourage you to encourage your friends to play, right? Even if they don't think they're athletic, or if they think they're a woman and they shouldn't be playing sports. I want us to dismantle all of these stereotypes that are placed upon all of us, especially women, because you can play sports, and you can play sports at a very high level and be successful. I really want you to watch women's sports. That is such an important piece to this puzzle. When women's sports are on television, turn it on, help with the ratings. Enjoy it, really appreciate it for what it is. We don't have to compare it to men's sports. We can see all these amazing female athletes out there. I hope all of you watched the 2019 Women's World Cup and watched the United States just absolutely dominate and beat France in the quarterfinals. Watch Megan Rapinoe score in those PKs. So it's such a beautiful game, and I encourage all of us to watch it. I want you to find a role model, especially a female role model. Like we said today, seeing is believing, and having someone there to encourage you, to show you the way, and to really expand the definition of what a woman can be. I feel like for me, and a lot of my youth, I felt very boxed in by what society told me a woman could do. And I was a huge tomboy growing up, meaning that I played a ton of sports. I hated wearing dresses. I mean, look at my haircut now. In the video, I often say I get confused for a boy. I get called sir all the time. And yeah, I mean, that hurts, and that is a hard thing, but also too, I know that I'm expanding what a woman can be. And I also know that resistance is a sign of progress. So I encourage you to find a female role model that is really pushing boundaries, because that will encourage you to do the same. And then last, but definitely not least, is to dream. Growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a professional athlete. That profession at that point didn't even exist, but I dreamed. And so many of these young women who go on to accomplish incredible things, it all started with a dream. And your dream then spurs on millions of other dreams. It's only crazy until you do it. And to see the U.S. Women's National Team playing in front of crowds that are chanting equal pay, that are just screaming their names, you can see how far we have evolved as female athletes, and we can appreciate the history. I want to encourage all of you guys, you have a platform. No matter the size, you can make a difference. And I really want to encourage you all to go out today, to play soccer, to be inspired by this talk today, to be inspired by each other and the women's national team and what we call the beautiful game. And really get out there today and make an impact, and also use your platform for a positive difference. I want to thank you guys for your attention today. I know we're going to have a lot of questions. You can follow me on Instagram. You have my email there too. Stay in touch. I always love all the responses from the audiences and to really connect with all of you guys. So I'm going to throw it back to Crystal so we can talk a little bit about the book and then get into some questions.
Great. Thank you so much for that inspiring and insightful presentation about your journey. And so before we open it up for questions, we'd love to hear more about this new chapter that brought us your new book, Raising Tomorrow's Champions. So first question, what motivated you to tell this collection of stories?
Similar to what we talked about today, there are so many women whose voices I really want to uplift. And the U.S. Women's National Team has been the most influential team in history, and they still are. And so to share their stories of how they got to where they are, so stories of leadership from Abby Wambach herself, how to overcome injuries from Rose Lavelle, I just felt like what better people to learn from than the women who have reached the highest level. So the book has all of their stories of 100+ women, but also too, I get to have a little sidebar in each chapter where I get to share my journey. So it was just a beautiful compilation of their stories and mine together.
No, great. And being able to share those stories must have been so rewarding for you, not only as an athlete, but as a woman. That's so great. So who would you say would be one of the authors and athletes who inspired you, and why?
Yeah, I think, the athlete that has inspired me is Abby Wambach. She's the greatest goal scorer in US soccer history, both men and women. And she has been such an influential figure throughout history. When it comes to LGBTQ rights, she was really the leading figure on the team, back maybe like 10 years ago. And then also too, she's just a real human being. She's really raw. She has 2 books out now. Forward is her first book, and then Wolfpack, where she encourages women to come together and unite and hunt as a wolf pack as opposed to just lone wolves. So I think she has some really strong messages, and she's accomplished so much on the field, which has made her such a success and influential figure off the field. And then when it comes to an author, there's so many sports books that I really loved, one of which recently is called Range by David Epstein, and it encourages young athletes to really diversify in terms of what sports they play. I think in the United States, we have this emphasis on being an elite athlete who specializes at a very young age. But his book encourages kids to play a multitude of sports, and that actually will make you a better athlete in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely, those are books to check out. So as many others do, I believe that you are an important advocate and activist for diversity, equity, inclusion. And these are issues that the US government and the State Department care a lot about. Can you explain how these themes are integrated throughout your book?
The first 3 chapters of our book deal with gender, orientation, and race. And we wanted to start our book with those chapters because those are difficult conversations for parents to have with their kids. But these are real issues that kids are facing today. We talk about gender all today during our event, how women feel boxed in by society, right? How we're forced to look a certain way, and female athletes often get a bad rap of being too masculine, too manly, and young girls are afraid to play sports because of these reasons. I think sexual orientation is such a huge issue in women's sports. The more you play, the more you're going to encounter it. You will have teammates who are LGBTQ, you'll have fans, you will have coaches, you will have parents of players who are same sex. So these are issues that we have to talk about. And then race is systemic, right? And that has held us back for so long. There's so many, especially in the United States, there's so many groups, inner city youth, low-income families that are not able to access sport because it's too expensive. So these are 3 issues that we wanted to really talk about right at the beginning of the book.
Absolutely. And I know you worked with so many collaborators and chose, to tell the stories of more than 100, professional women athletes. What did you actually learn about yourself throughout the writing process?
It was almost like doing a DNA test. And because while I appreciated the history of women's soccer, even I didn't necessarily know what Title IX was. It's something that we speak of, but we don't focus on it day in and day out. So I have such a stronger appreciation for the players who came before me and what they went through, because the first ever players, they got paid nothing, Crystal. Like, I'm talking about cents. And they wore the jerseys of the men like hand-me-downs, right? And they had horrible travel conditions. So you have a true appreciation of what they went through to then create the current team today. Megan Rapinoe wouldn't be here today without the players from 1985 who originated this team and started it. So I think having this understanding of and appreciation of the history.
Yes, we stand on the shoulders of giants. That's great. And I see the book behind you. If people are interested in learning more and getting their hands on the book, where can they find it?
So our website is rtcsoccer.com. And then the book is also, to order it in Portugal, you'd want to order it on Amazon. So the book is on Amazon. Just search Raising Tomorrow's Champions, and they could find it there. But our website has our blog too, so you can learn a lot more about soccer. It has even beyond our book, it has some great stories of players throughout the history.
Absolutely. Definitely, definitely, definitely. We've shared the link in the chat.
Thank you.
So changing gears a little bit before we open it up, because we already have some great questions in the chat that I want to get to. I'm sure people want to know, are you a fan of Portuguese soccer and would you visit to watch a game?
Yes, please invite me as soon as possible. And I'm a huge fan of all soccer, especially Portuguese soccer. You've heard me reference Cristiano Ronaldo, Porto, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon. I know you guys are all fans out there. So please consider me on the next flight over.
Nice, nice. I love to hear all of that. We love to see people supporting Portuguese soccer. We love Portuguese soccer. Now let's go to a few of the questions. One person asked, have you ever felt prejudice from fans since it's a male sport? Well, or
yeah.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, every single day, right? Every single day you feel that sense of resistance. When I played over in Barcelona, I played for Espanyol. There were a couple of male fans on the sideline and they were calling me Schweinsteiger, which is a German male player. So I think there are just daily occurrences of having to practice at like 8:30 at night because the men's teams take the field all day long, to, you know, really not having good conditions, good resources. I've had situations where I didn't actually get paid on a team when I've signed a contract because I didn't have the money. So I could go on for hours about the prejudice and the discrimination that I've faced as a female athlete. But at the same time, I'm willing to go through that because of what the women who've gone through before me did, right? Like, I know that I'm blazing the trail for those who come behind me. And I know that the future is so bright for women's sports and there's so much potential there that I don't care what people say. I'm going to keep playing until the day I die.
Absolutely. And I think even in your message about inclusion, you know, you talk about how sports is a universal language and everyone belongs on the field. And so I think it's also important for us to kind of leave behind female or male sports and move forward to the sport that everyone loves, the beautiful game where everyone has an opportunity to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. The next question was it you that chose number 15, that rainbow jersey that was retired, which is an incredible story and testament to your work? Did you choose that number and does it have a special meaning to you?
So I actually came to play for the Spirit in 2015. So it's actually not that inspiring that I chose the number 15 because it was 2015, the year that I played for them. But the rainbow jersey was pretty incredible because my number was retired on the Washington Spirit's first ever Pride Night. So in the United States, you'll have a lot of Pride nights, usually in the month of June for each team, where they'll celebrate LGBTQ history at their games. And perfect timing. They retired my number on their first ever Pride Night. So it was just like a really special night.
So great. What a great moment. And where is that jersey, the one that you were holding in the picture now?
So the Spirit has it up in their team lounge. So they honor former players. And then I also have a jersey down in my bedroom.
Oh, that's great. Another question, was it difficult to deal with your success knowing that there are still some people who are unfortunately not open-minded?
You know what? I think every day I wake up and I just try to be the best version of myself. And if I thought about how many people don't want me to do that, I think I'd have a really hard time. So I try to just focus on the things that I can control. I know the cool thing is that when I live my life, I know no matter what, I'm going to face resistance, right? Like, look at my haircut, look at what I do for a living, look how I live my life. There's going to be people who don't agree with it. But if I live true to myself and I do what my heart tells me to do, you just kind of have to let those people go and know that you're doing the right thing and you're doing what you love. And I think you'll get a lot of positive reinforcement from that. Absolutely.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you and the Joe Hawk. So
thank you.
So important for us to live our authentic selves. Someone else asked, what was your biggest motivation to do sports and become an athlete?
I had an older brother. He was 3 years older than me. So I grew up playing sports with him and his friends. I would say, every single day I would just go outside in my neighborhood and we would play hockey, we played basketball, we played football, we would swim, play tennis. And just from a very young age, it was encouraged by my parents to be very active. And I just absolutely loved it. So I think my motivation was just the drive and the passion I had for sports. And then, I loved being a part of a team. A lot of my best friends were on my soccer team. It brought so many wonderful emotions, such unadulterated joy when I stepped over the line to play sports, that I kept getting that positive reinforcement. I never wanted to stop. All I wanted to do was just play and play and play. And I think that's a unique aspect of sports, is that you really get to just play, right? When you're out in the field, and it doesn't matter the background of your teammates. I've been over in Africa playing sports with someone who's 20 years younger than me, who on paper is, different skin color, different religion, different culture, different background. And we get on the field and we're laughing and we're passing and we're scoring goals. And it's just such an incredible feeling. So I want to encourage everyone to really just get out there and enjoy it.
Absolutely. Get out there and enjoy it. And the weather is perfect to do that right now. One of our great teachers, Dulce, from our teacher network, says, Joanna, thank you so much for sharing your story. As a coach, what do you say to athletes who may be feeling a bit unmotivated?
I think we all go through periods where we don't feel motivated, right? I think the pandemic probably has brought that out of us, all of us at times. It's been a really hard year. And to be stuck inside and to not be able to travel or be socially with one another as human beings, that's been a very hard time. So I would say it's okay, right? Like I understand. I've been through it. I've had days where I've gone to bed crying or woken up and I've been super sad, but feelings are always temporary and there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. So I would just say, work through it. Try to identify what is making you unmotivated. And it's okay to not want to play at the highest level, right? If one day you're just like, okay, I just love the sport for what it is. I don't want to make the travel team. I don't want to try to play professionally. That is totally okay. I hope people know that my talk today isn't to encourage all of you to try to be a professional athlete. It's to find your passion and just work towards it. So I think everyone can find their passion in something. And it's just really a matter of being self-reflective and trying to understand where that lack of motivation comes from. Maybe you need to make some changes. Maybe you need to do something different with your life. So just being very honest with yourself and understanding and very compassionate that it's okay and it's going to be okay.
Absolutely. Give yourself some grace. Definitely.
Yes, right.
So someone asked, what did you feel when you started training and mentoring younger athletes? It seems like that's such an important part of who you are and how you've developed into, the author and activist you are today.
I think it just reinforced the power of sport. And I think that I have a special gift in a sense that I have been through so much. I've been through so much adversity. I've come out after being engaged to a man at the age of 21. I've lost in the championship game. I've torn my ACL. I've cut all my hair off and turned it into the Joe Hawk. So I feel like I understand humanity, right? And I understand what it's like to feel different or to not fit in or to want to be something that people tell you can't be. And I think I have a unique gift of being able to connect with kids and being able to say, you know what, you are perfect just the way that you are. And I know the world keeps telling you to be something else. And I know that you have a lot of pressures from school, from parents, from society to be something you're not, but you're perfect. And playing sports is a way to bring that out of them. So I think it's really helped me to see the impact I can make on the world is working with kids and using the sport to really teach them wonderful lessons they can use the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Another great question from the chat. The American women's national soccer team is way ahead of most countries. What do you think makes the difference?
I think about this all the time. I think that in the United States of America, we love winners and we're huge about being athletic. So I think we support women in ways that most other countries don't. So we can start off with the legislation of Title IX. I mean, you have a legal structure where it is against the law to discriminate against a woman compared to a man in sports. And not many countries have that, right? So you have a law that exists as a structure, and then you have a lot of society that reinforces that being a female athlete, being strong, being successful is a very attractive thing, right? And I think a lot of women grow up in the United States wanting to be athletic, wanting to be fit, and they see these role models on the national team who are absolute rock stars, right? And they're like, I want to be that person. So again, representation matters, and seeing people do what you want to do is so important to the game. So I think we have the perfect combination of like societal support, we have role models for it, and we have the legal structure to really provide that structure and foundation.
No, great. That was a great answer, and definitely it's interesting because you mentioned how dominant the women's national team is, but on the foundation of it all, it's the laws, it's the attitude, it's the encouragement. All of that creates a foundation for success. So we definitely want to and strive to make sure we're trying to be a part of the solution in other countries. How can we create those types of environments as well? So that's really, really great. Someone asked, speaking of rock stars, you mentioned playing with Megan. How was it like playing with Megan?
It's so cool to be around these women. You know, it's just, they are so powerful and they are so bold. And even having played with her and to see that the way that they won the 2019 Women's World Cup in France, I was awestruck. I was so inspired by them because they have so much pressure. They were, you know, Megan Rapinoe was tweeting back to President Trump at that time. They had a lawsuit against US Soccer suing for pay equality. They had every single team in the world wanting to destroy them, and they still won with absolute domination. And I think that really speaks to the mental fortitude of this team. They actually, you know, through the interviews of our book, we interviewed Becky Sauerbrunn, who's the captain of the women's national team. And I asked her the same exact question. I said, how do you deal with all of this pressure? And she says, we actually invite it. You know, we invite it in because we know that pressure is a privilege, the privilege to really be an agent for change. And they love it. And I think mentally speaking, they're just so freaking tough that it's just fun to watch them do what they love. And so playing with Megan Rapinoe is just an absolute joy because she's just such a bold figure on and off the field.
Absolutely. And so many stories like that of resilience and perseverance despite the obstacles in your book. Going back to an earlier point, you talked about your work as a sports envoy in Nigeria and it being linked to human trafficking and how you're able to use sports as a vehicle to achieve social justice. The next question asks, how should education and high performance in sport be combined to motivate young athletes to reach both objectives? So I hope that you'd be able to share a little bit more about your experience in Nigeria and kind of some of your overall thoughts.
Yeah, I think what's so special about sports is that all of the lessons that you learn are transferable. They're transferable to education, they're transferable to success off the field. Because in sports, you learn about focus, you learn about determination, you learn about competition, healthy competition, you learn about being a part of a team, time management, right? So you learn about all of these lessons that you can apply to education. Education, you need to learn how to focus, how to be determined, how to manage your time. So they come hand in hand, and people just love to play sports. So you can like sneakily, you know, hide in some lessons, life lessons in sport that they wouldn't necessarily be open to in an educational structure, right? In a classroom structure. I think we all learn better when we're moving. So you have that movement, you have that aerobic activity within your brain that really allows you to turn on, I would say, like a different skill set. So you're learning more, you're being active physically. And in Nigeria, we would spend, you know, a couple hours playing soccer in the day. And we're talking about players who have literally never touched the ball. So this is their first time playing. And then the afternoon would be spent working on, you know, education and prevention of human trafficking. So when you combine those two, I think you can create a really powerful program that enables the kids to play soccer and to learn to love soccer, but also to be educated on such important things in their life. So I think education and sports just comes hand in hand.
Absolutely. Well, we started off the presentation with that great highlight reel, and someone is asking, what was your favorite goal?
So you guys saw what I like to call the tricycle kick that I did in my highlight video, which would also be confused for a bicycle kick, but it's the cover of my book also too. So I think this was the greatest goal that I ever scored. And also too, it was the first goal of the 2015 season for the Washington Spirit. So it was a magic moment for me, and it was something that I'll never forget. Now it's on the cover of a book.
Yeah, isn't that a crazy full circle moment? And you've had so much support over your entire career, this entire journey. One person asked, who was your biggest supporter throughout it all?
I think, it sounds cliche, but my mom and my dad, I just think that parental support is so essential, and they supported me in such a healthy way. I think you have a lot of parents who can be overbearing and who can be over involved. And luckily for me, my parents didn't know much about sports. They took me to practice, they dropped me off. They didn't stay around to have to watch every second of it. And I played unsupervised with all of my friends in my neighborhood. So I think playing unsupervised with no one watching you is it turns into an art form as opposed to a science. And then just having them there to love me unconditionally. I have a really powerful passage in the book on page 204 where I talk about how my parents supported me when I lost my championship game in 2016. It was just absolutely devastating for me. And my mom was there to just say, you know what, Joe, I love you no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. And I think it's so important to have someone in your life that tells you that, because we can wrap our identity so much around being an athlete. And if we lose a game, it can be hard, but at the same time, it's okay, right? Like, life will go on. We're all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And I think my parents just really, really helped to reinforce that being a good human being is the most important thing above all.
Yeah, absolutely. Family support is so important, and so glad to hear that you had them, with you every step of the way. So everybody's interested in what Joanna's up to now. You're an athlete, you're, now a published author, you're an activist. What are you up to now, and what's next for Joanna Lohman?
So I'm really busy, working on the book, doing a lot of interviews, radio interviews, podcasts, and that type of thing. I'm actually planning a wedding. So my partner and I are getting married on September 25th here in Washington, D.C. And, I really would like to use this book as a platform for the next phase of my career. And that's to continue to educate, mentor, and teach, I would say parents too, the lessons of soccer, and to guide young athletes on a healthy path, and to help their parents guide them too. So that's really, I think, what is my life's work. And, I'm excited to come to Portugal. I'm excited to come visit all of you guys. And, the sky is the limit over here. And I'm just so excited about what the future brings.
Great. So many congratulations in the chat.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your wedding. Last question. There's so many questions. Our last question is, what advice would you give to young writers and aspiring athletes that want to be in your shoes one day?
So for authors, I would say just start writing. I think one of the hardest steps is the first step. And I think we all have doubts, and we all can be self-conscious, and we can think to ourselves, well, my story doesn't matter, right? But it matters. And I'm here to tell you that today, that your voice needs to be heard. Whatever you feel passionate about, I want to know about that. The world wants to know about that. And when you write and speak about that, you're adding positive vibes to this world, right? So just start somewhere and believe in yourself. And then to young athletes, I would say, especially female athletes, I just want to let you know that you can be so much more than the world tells you, right? I wish as a kid, I knew that I could be so much more than what society was telling me. I don't have to wear a dress. I can have a mohawk. I can play professional sports. And I can do all of those things and still be happy and still be healthy. So I think for the young athletes, completely be yourself and know that the world has so much more to offer than probably what you're being told. So explore it and go out and do it.
Such inspiring closing words. Thank you so much. This has certainly been a great way to mark International Day of Sport for the Development of Peace and for the development and peace. I'd like to say a sincere muito obrigada. Thank you in Portuguese to you, Joanna, for joining us. Thank you for your light and continued service as a sports envoy, making the world a more peaceful and inclusive place. And we wish you the best in all your future endeavors, and look forward to welcoming you to Portugal.
Yes.
Next time in person for a soccer game.
That would be amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of the students and teachers here from our Piarsa, Azambuja, Denise, Coimbra. We had 2 schools from Coimbra and Santiago de Caceng. I also want to thank our great friends and partners at IPDJ for their continued support, as well as thank my amazing team at the U.S. Embassy for putting this together. And lastly, to all of you, the students, athletes, teachers, coaches here, appreciate you supporting the U.S. Embassy and our goals to support and underscore the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion. We look forward to having more conversations about the power of sports, especially as the lead up to the Olympics. And stay tuned for our next session. It's going to be on World Portuguese Language Day next month. So thank you so much. Be sure to follow Joanna on social media. Check out the book. We've shared that information in the chat. And we appreciate you. Thank you and have a great day.